According to USA Today, 7.6 million U.S. households have left pay television. In fact, 18 to 35-year-olds, millennials, are cutting the cable cord in record numbers and sticking to smaller screens and streaming for their entertainment. So is it time for all of us, including you, to cut the cable cord as well? Tech consultant Katie Linendoll is here to give us the latest trends in what's happening online and what your best options are when it comes to TV streaming and a la carte entertainment. So let's get to the nitty-gritty of this.
Yes.
Because you're still paying for television if you're going to stream. You're paying for Netflix or Hulu, whichever service you're going to buy. But is it time for all of us to cut the cable cord?
I think it's time for all of us to know our options. And I think this is in a time of disruption like we've never seen before in TV. And I think 2015 and 2016 especially, it's going to be very buzzworthy as to cable cutting. And the numbers are staggering. And I'm all about the numbers don't lie. We talk about 4.5% of households in 2010 ditching TV subscriptions. And just in 2013, that number went up to 6.5%. And I like what you said because I find it the most interesting part. 18 to 35-year-olds, those are the millennials, the ones everybody cares about. They're the ones that a quarter of them don't want TV subscription services because they want the Netflix, they want the Hulu's of the world.
Okay, but let's call this for what it truly is.
Yep.
Netflix is a TV subscription.
It's a
it's a streaming service. What does Netflix produce, though? What do they put out there? They put out TV programs,
and
right?
Here's where we're going to
What I'm getting at is that if I'm paying $30 for broadband, actually you pay $56 to $60.
Yep.
And on top of that, I think what's the average? We have here that 74% of 18 to 35-year-olds, the millennials, are paying a little less than $30 a month.
Correct.
They're still paying not as much with the total cable package, but as you add the streaming services, you could be paying as much.
Well, I got to tell you, I've spoken with a lot of cable providers, and they're like, after you start adding up the a la carte options that are out there right now, you're not saving that much money, but you are in the sense that if you have $15 for HBO Now or you have $9.99 a month for WWE Network, yes, it does start to add up, but it's not. I got to tell you, my cable bill your month is well over $150. It's insane when the average user only needs 17 channels. So I think there is a huge savings there, and I think as a consumer, you need to start to know your options. There's no way, the basic model isn't going anywhere anytime soon, but there's one-size-fits-all model is passé.
Yeah, that's definitely out, because we've considered cutting the cable because it is roughly it's not even 17 channels, and our FiOS bill is $154 a month right there. So the broadband's going to cost, let's just use me as the example, forgive me, but if I cut, I'm going to be paying for broadband roughly $60 a month. Is that going to get me the high-speed internet I need for us to be able to watch Netflix or other streaming services without the blips and interruptions?
Well, you're not going to get live sports, which I think is one of the biggest challenges. And that, for me, is the reason why I can't get off of cable right now. Live sports, live wrestling, non-negotiable.
But those contracts are coming.
However, they are coming, and I swear that's going to be a battle. We'll have to see how that pans out legally. But when we're talking about, a $10 or a $5 or a $15 a la carte service, when it comes to Hulu, Amazon Prime, or Netflix, yeah, it's worth it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's not an extra 100. So if we're doing the math, it's a fair negotiation.
So let me ask you about Netflix and millennials. Why are the millennials, a quarter of them, have no cable whatsoever, correct? How do they get their internet? Are they getting it Wi-Fi, or are they still signing up for the broadband? They're just not doing any of the TV portion of the cable offering?
Well, I don't know the exact breakdown in terms of the overarching umbrella, but I mean, we look at the younger audience, 18 to 35, I think some of those are still in school, and obviously some of them are using Wi-Fi in areas where it's widely spread, so I don't have the numbers there, but I think obviously they don't feel the need to have this cable package. It's too expensive, bottom line.
But has anybody figured out what those 18 to 35-year-olds are watching? For instance, when they're watching Netflix, are they watching original Netflix programming? Are they watching programming that might have been originated by 21st Century Fox and sold to Netflix? What is it they're watching?
I think the bottom line is content is king, and I think that's what we're starting to see is very powerful. When you have someone like an HBO, can't miss programming will always win out. And we talk about Girls and Game of Thrones, creating content that you absolutely have to see. And I think HBO is smart because they're playing chess, not checkers, in the sense that they're looking at this long term. Hey, we need to add this a la carte. And maybe financially this doesn't make the most sense for us right now, but long term we're getting our subscription base pulled in. So again, can't miss content is going to be the end of the day make or break.
Some of the people in old media, what I call baby boom media, actually say that as people become older, those 18 to 35-year-olds who are now millennials, as they become older, they'll actually go back to the kind of a la carte cable offerings because, as you pointed out, you can't get the live sports. And if it's the same fees and you get 1,000 channels, but you're only going to watch 17, at least it's the 17 you want.
And I actually have to add an example to that. I think niche content providers and things that you can't miss. I use WWE Network as a really great example.
Yeah.
I'm an unassuming WWE fan, and here you have 1.3 million subscribers. Here they have content that only fits a niche audience, right? They realize that they have a heavy fan base. So you create WWE Network, and now what they've done is they offer all of the pay-per-views that I used to pay $75 a month for free. That's all in that $9.99 a month package. If you know that you have this fan base, this subculture that you can tap into and you can have can't miss programming.
Who needs cable?
That is where it's going.
And Apple, by the way, Apple used to say they wouldn't produce content, and now they're getting ready to produce content. Who's going to be the top 3 streamers, do you think, 5 years from now?
5 years from now? Oh my goodness. Well, I think cable companies have to realize this a la carte is in the direction that it's going. I think you have to offer your consumers options and give them packages, which we're starting to see a lot of. I also think we're going to see a lot more niche programming, as I use WWE as an example, in HBO Now. I think it goes in a multitude of directions, but I think Apple and Google absolutely know that they have to get into that mix, and Google, especially with fiber, they're going to have to get in there as well, more so.
We need to bring you back to talk about Google Fiber and those issues.
all over.
And why we can't get them in New York because of the regulations. But
You and me both.
oh my word!
Don't get me started.
Get me started. Listen, we appreciate your being here. And I think next week we will cut the cord and see if we can make it. And if not, we'll go back. For more of Katie's thoughts on cutting the cable cord, be sure to follow her on Twitter at Katie Linendoll and check out her website, katielinendoll.com. For FoxNews.com's Tech Take, I'm Adam Shapiro.